hand. Stand by me, stand by me, stand by me, stand by me.
Hello everybody and welcome to Claire and Tom's wedding! Claire and Tom and their families snuck off earlier today and are now legally married! But in order for them to make it truly official, they wanted to be able to include all of the people they love as they make their promises together for their lives together. It is for this reason that we all have the wonderful privilege of coming together today in this beautiful place. It is a great honour, although one which I have tried to get out of several times, to conduct this ceremony for two of the greatest friends I've ever had, whose relationship and friendship is an inspiration and a joy to me and to all of us here today. The first sparks of Claire and Tom's romance, ignited in an unlikely venue, sat on a tarpaulin at a very hot and dusty festival in southern Spain. I know this because I was there. As we all sat there laughing, none of us had any idea that 8 years later we will be stood in a lush and sunny field in mid-Wales and I would be conducting their wedding ceremony. We wouldn't have guessed that in a few months of that festival they would be off camping on deserted islands in Croatia, having guns pointed at them in dark forests in Slovakia, and learning to teach English in Poland. None of us suspected for a minute, as Tom poured the gin and tonics, that it wouldn't be that long before they were living in a flat in central Barcelona with Luke and Miranda on another new adventure. On Claire and Tom's return from Barcelona, we perhaps could have hazarded a guess that they would have a summer packed full of fun, festivals and hot tubs, but not that this would have meant that their next move to Granada was shortened, as the pull to get back to you lovely lot was just too great. As Claire poured another beer on that tarpaulin, we weren't thinking of a time that they would live together in Sheffield, thankfully briefly next to a family of arsonists, and then into a lovely little house with an insane kitten called Oscar. Nor would we have predicted that they would break most of their friends' hearts, never mind their own, and split up. It was a year marked by Bell's palsy, bike accidents and big fringes. And quite a lot of sadness. And we were all very glad when they stopped being ridiculous and got back together. As the sun beat down on us, it did not enter our heads that after a couple more lovely years in Sheffield, they would pack it all in and head off for yet another adventure, flitting across Canada and the Americas. We would have laughed flippantly at the notion that it would be during this trip that Tom would propose to Claire whilst in a crater of a volcano in a lake in Mexico, and that she would say yes. The thing I could have foreseen that joyous day in Spain was that these two beautiful people would continue to have lives full of fun, adventure, laughter, kindness and joy. What I didn't know was that this adventure into life would now be a joint one. I knew that day that these two new friends of mine enhanced my life, but never could have known the extent as a couple they would enhance the lives of everyone around them. They are two of the most amazing people I have ever known. And I know everyone here is incredibly proud to know them and have them in their lives, whether that is as child, grandchild, sibling, auntie, uncle, cousin or friend. This would have been a very special and proud day for Claire's mum, and there will be lots of thoughts of her today. Claire and Tom, or Clom to many, are a true team and are unwaveringly supportive, loyal, loving and kind to each other. They are also joyously silly and have an enormous appetite for fun and adventure. Although we cannot predict the future more now than we could sat on that tarpaulin in Spain, what we all know with certainty is that their lives together will continue to be full of adventure, and that they will approach all of life's adventure with a spirit of fun, openness and love. We will now have a reading by the wonderful Sally Collister.
Yeah, it's a total honour to do a reading for two people that I love very much indeed. I just want to say thanks to Claire for making my brother really happy. Thanks to Tom for giving me a new sister and a really good friend. And when I was thinking about what to read, I was just thinking about Tom and Claire's relationship, and what the kind of main thing that sprung to mind was just laughter, how Tom and Claire just bring laughter wherever they go, and they're always giggling and laughing, and so I wanted to find something that fitted with that. So I found a poem that I'd never heard before. It's by Pablo Neruda, and it's called Your Laughter. Take bread away from me if you wish, take air away, but do not take from me your laughter. Do not take away the rose, the lance flower that you pluck, the water that suddenly bursts forth in joy, that sudden wave of silver born in you. My struggle is harsh, and I come back with eyes tired at times from having seen the unchanging earth. But when your laughter enters, it rises to the sky, seeking me, and it opens for me all the doors of life. My love, in the darkest hour, your laughter opens, and if suddenly you see my blood staining the stones of the street, laugh, because your laughter will be for my hands like a fresh sword. Next to the sea in the autumn, your laughter must raise its foamy cascade. And in the spring, my love, I want your laughter like the flower I was waiting for, that blue rose, the flower of my echoing country. Laugh at the night, at the day, at the moon. Laugh at the twisted streets of the island. Laugh at this clumsy boy who loves you. But when I open my eyes and close them, when my steps go, when my steps return, deny me bread, air, light, spring, but never your laughter, for I would die.
We will now have a song by the lovely Gaz.
You never lay your head down without a hand to hold. May you never make your bed out in the cold. You're just like a sweet soul sister of mine, and I know that I love you true. You hold no blade to stab me in my back, 'cause I know that there's those that do. So won't you please, won't you please, won't you bear it in mind? Love is a lesson to learn in our time. Please, won't you bear it in mind for me? May you never lay your head down without a hand to hold. May you never make your bed out in the cold. You're just like a great strong sister of mine, and I know that I love you true. You never talk dirty behind my back, and I know that there's those that do. So won't you please, won't you bear it in mind? That love is a lesson to learn in our time. Please, won't you bear it in mind for me? May you never lose your temper if you get hit in a barroom fight. May you never lose your woman overnight. You're just like a great strong brother to me, and I know that I love you true. You hold no blade to stab me in my back, and I know that there's those that do. So won't you please, won't you bear it in mind? And love is a lesson to learn in our time. Please, won't you bear it in mind for me? May you never lay your head down without a hand to hold. May you never make your bed out in the cold. You're just like a newlywed bride of mine, and I know that I love you true. I'll always be there, you I got your back, and you know that I always do. So won't you please, won't you please, won't you bear it in mind? Love is a lesson we've learned in our time. Now please, won't you bear it in mind for us?
Now, the one and only Andy Palmer would like to read a letter that he's written for Tom and Claire.
Dear Claire and Tom, on a hill above the valley there was a wood. In the wood there was a huge tree. Under the tree there was a hole. In the hole lived Mr. Fox, Mrs. Fox, and their 4 small foxes. Every evening, as soon as it got dark, Mr. Fox would say to Mrs. Fox, "Well, my darling, what shall it be this time? A plump chicken from Bogus? A duck or a goose from Bunce? Or a nice turkey from Bean?" And when Mrs. Fox had told him what she wanted, Mr. Fox would creep down into the valley in the darkness of the night and help himself. The reason why I wanted to share part of that story with you today stems from my earliest memories of your relationship. Many years ago, our paths crossed whilst travelling Croatia, and each night you would excitedly get into bed and take it in turns to read to each other. On those particular occasions, you were reading Fantastic Mr. Fox. For me, those memories encapsulate the beauty and the balance of your relationship. 2 best friends, able to share everything with one another, able to patiently listen to one another, and able to understand one another, and able to laugh with one another. Whilst both equally eager to experience another new journey with one another. Now, just like an author, you have the opportunity to create your own life story together. It's an honour to share that memory at your wedding today, and I feel very privileged to have you both in my life. Love me.
Possible somebody get us a glass of water? Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Andy. Ready? Now, Claire would like to say some words to Tom.
Hello, is it on? Yeah. Tom, I love you for so many reasons. I love you because you're one of the most thoughtful, loving, insightful and unconditionally fun people I've ever met. You meet everyone with an open mind and you're so incredibly loving of not just me but everyone around you. You have a wonderful way of bringing out the best in everyone around you. I adore your absolute lack of ego. We only have to watch you dance to witness this. I have a profound sense that everything will be alright whenever you are near me. You are my rock.
Thanks, Claire. Okay, so Claire, a few things I love about you. I love how much you care about your friends and loved ones. You always go the extra mile to help people you care about, and you're always there for them with words of encouragement, love and support. And that includes for me as well. I feel so supported by you always. So, I love how fair and non-judgmental you are. You have an amazing sense of justice and the importance of equality. I've been impressed many times by your willingness to stand up for what's right, even when the outcome jeopardises your own security. I love your sense of humour, and When I first began to think that you could be more than just a friend, one of the things that really struck me about you was how much you made me laugh. You have a wonderfully cheeky sense of humour, and you're brilliant at making fun of me in a way that's honest, loving and hilarious. And finally, I love your sense of adventure, whether we're on a wet mountain top in Wales, snorkelling over coral reefs in Cuba, cycling in the Peak District or dancing in a nightclub in San Francisco. I know that we have a shared thirst for new experiences, and because of this, I know that life with you will never be boring.
Claire will now read her vows to Tom.
I promised to tackle any challenges we may face as a team, to weather any storm, stood by your side. I promise to endeavour to have the utmost fun with you until our dying days, to breathe laughter and joy into our married life. I promise to always strive to create a loving space for you and our future family, full of love, warmth and honesty. I promise to love you and learn with you as we grow older, so we develop and grow as individuals and as a team, so we can make the most out of life and the people around us.
I promise all those things too. I promise to always remember how incredibly lucky I am to have you as my best friend as well as now my wife, and never to take you for granted. I promise to always be open and honest with you. I don't think that's a problem, is it? To trust you and to give you the respect that you deserve. I promise to try my best not to take life too seriously, and always to look for opportunities for new experiences and adventures for us to have. And I promise to celebrate and enjoy the good things that life brings our way, and to be by your side, loving and supporting you through the challenges that life can bring.
Can we have the rings, please, Tom? Do you, Claire Elizabeth Palmer, take Thomas James Collister to be your most cherished best friend and husband?
I do.
Do you, Thomas James Collister, take Claire Elizabeth Palmer to be your most cherished best friend
I definitely do.
and wife?
I definitely do.
It's Alexander.
I now pronounce you husband and wife.
the color running from your hair. And I saw you bending in the blue night, past the post box, past Compane. There's a playground by the roadside, there's a flame upon your brow. There's 1,000 drinks inside a bottle, and if you hear me blue, oh, tell me now. For what goes slowly must go far. Green man,
We're gonna do it,
Mr. and Mrs. Collister, but just a little technicality. Claire is having a year of transition from Palmer into Collister. She's a woman who can choose what she wants to do. Let's go Palmer, yeah! And Collisters, yeah! And they're together right now for you, everybody here!
Hello. Testing. Right, so hello everybody. It's wonderful. Is this a bit loud? No. It's wonderful to have everybody here. Like all of our friends from all over the world, really, and Britain and everything. So welcome everybody, and thanks everyone for coming all this way for this day, which has been wonderful so far. And it's only halfway through, and there's a massive party. So, a few things to begin with about my lovely bride. My wife. Hooray! She's my wife. So, when I first met Claire was, as Lottie explained earlier, in a music festival in Spain, and it was amazing. It was a wonderful festival, and I just bowled around with Claire for the whole weekend, and we had a wonderful time. But I didn't really think of Claire as girlfriend material at the time. I just thought she was a good, genuinely good egg who I could have a really good laugh with. And when it dawned on me towards the end of the festival, well, kind of after she'd buried me on a beach in sand and I'd breathe through a snorkel because my head was covered in sand, it dawned on me that maybe she was girlfriend material. And I had a big think because it was like, this is too good, it's too easy and wonderful, and so yeah, so it was brilliant that she actually wanted to be my girlfriend. Did you? So I was very happy about that. So, and then the first time she came to Wales shortly afterwards. And we went for a little. I think we'd done a party somewhere, and we were driving home. We were driving past. There's a bridge called Beaver Bridge near Betws-y-Coed. Yeah, good. And we went past Beaver Bridge, and I was telling Claire the anecdote of how, as youngsters, we always used to jump off this bridge, and we'd actually measured it with a rope, and it's 33 feet from the wall to the water, and I said, well, I'm up for jumping off it. What do you think? Thinking she'd just say no way, and she said, yeah, I'm in, I'm game. So we pulled up at the bridge, stripped off to our pants and bra in your case. Boring. I jumped off, thinking that Claire was going to sort of stand at the edge and go, actually, nah. And then she stood there, in a bra and pant, and there was a bit of wavering, and she was a bit unsure, and then she just, I think what it was, there were a lot of cars queuing up. I think actually there was a bit of fear there that she was kind of making a show of herself, and it wouldn't look too good if she backed down. And there's definitely a sort of an element of your personality, I think, that you like to, you know, you're going to suck it to them, and if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And lo and behold, she jumped off that bridge 33 feet, and that was the point where I was like, that's the girl for me. And then shortly after that, a month after that, we were. It was when I was my profession at that time was lime plastering, and I was repointing a church on an island. There was a causeway out to this church, and I've been doing it for 6 weeks, and it was the last 2 days. And we had to lime wash the church, but what needed doing on this church before lime washing was to scrub all the lichen off the stones so that it didn't contaminate the lime wash. And my amazing new girlfriend, who at the time was a bit skint, I said, well, hey, I've got a job for you. Why don't you come and scrub the lime wash off stones for 2 days solid? Claire at the time thought, oh, that sounds romantic, a church on an island, I'll come and do this. And she spent 2 days with a toothbrush scrubbing lichen off stones. And it really struck me there that by the end, I think she didn't really manage to put a brave face on it by the end. Her face had kind of sunk by the end of the 2 days. And it struck me, that was the point that Claire's sort of ability to stick with things, even when they're arduous and frustrating, came into play. And like, maybe that's why she's still with me today. I don't know. There's a joke. On that same 2 days on the island, we also hatched plans to go and live in Barcelona, and Claire told me that this was what her and Miranda were doing, and they were doing it together.
We had no choice.
There was no choice, was there, Luke? Really? Well, we weren't kind of factored in, but I sort of said, well, I wouldn't mind going along, and so that plan was hatched on that island as well. And then the final thing that I wanted to say about that little job was Claire. Basically, at the end of the job, we had to get all of the tools off the island onto the mainland along this causeway, and it was a horrendous storm. It was bucketing down with rain, lashing it in a sort of gale force wind. And I looked over, and it was kind of getting dark. We were in the gloaming, and I looked over at Claire, carrying a bucket of tools in each hand, wearing high-vis, extra-large waterproofs, with her hair bedraggled in her face, and a sort of look. And I was like, that was the second time in that time I thought, that's the girl for me. because she looks absolutely amazing today. But she's not a girly girl. And she's not afraid to get her hands dirty and get involved, and I really love that about Claire. And all of the things that were said earlier about your qualities, and I just think you're wonderful, and you're my rock. As you said to me, I wanted to repeat all the vows you made to me, and I know that no matter what happens in my day, when I get home, you're there and everything's okay. So, thanks, Claire. And
Scrubbing away.
Scrubbing away. So that's my little gush over. But I also wanted to say thank you to all the Palmers for making me feel so much part of the family. Now, I remember the first Christmas that I had down in Reading with the whole clan, and I won't lie to you, I was terrified. Yeah? There's probably, how many, 30? 30 of you when you're all assembled? 40? Feels like thousands, yeah? Feels like thousands. Palmers at the back. Big up to the Palmers! There were just so many of them, and they all had such large personalities, and it was actually dubbed Palmageddon. But I soon came to realise what a wonderful and warm and funny bunch they all are.
Funny?
Well, yeah.
Funny ha ha.
Yeah, good one.
Funny ha, funny
They are funny. I'll give it to them. They're a funny bunch. And I just wanted to say thank you to all the Palmers for making me feel so much a part of the family, and especially to Rob and Marguerite for all the support, and Rob for both of you for all the support with setting this wedding up and making it happen today. So thank you all.
You hold the mic further up.
Hello.
So you further up.
Just don't hold the cable. Yeah.
Like that, okay. I've actually written some stuff down. I'm not going to ad-lib because prefer to have it scripted. So anyway, I'll start. So stop it! Ad-libbing. Okay, I'll stick to the script.
Go on that mic.
Right. Technical issues.
Dodgy
Sing a song.
1, 2. No. Just,
Hello? Okay. Hello. I wanted to say something as well as Tom, because it's always good to have a bit of equality in these things. Such an oppressed woman. But firstly, I want to say thank you for Tom for being the incredible man that you are. It's been mentioned a few times that we first properly spent time together when we were in a music festival in Spain. But I was really struck by this man who was so at ease with himself and everyone around him, had a real lust for life and laughter. He really made me laugh, and he didn't care what anyone thought of him, and approached life and anyone he talked to with a smile and some kind of silly dance. I really admire the way Tom puts everyone who he meets at ease, whether it's our friends, the kids in his classroom, my granddad, or the people we meet on our travels. He seems to have all the time in the world for whomever he's talking to, and always manages to bring the best out of everyone around him. I think it's a great quality. I know that I know wherever we live or whatever life throws at us, it will always be okay. You'll have your pinyon. The delicious bread you've just made will be baking in the oven, and there'll be some wonderful music that you've just discovered playing in the background. I know I'll have a happy life with you. Secondly, I'd like to thank our parents for making us the people we are today. Dad, Marguerite, Rob and Nettie. Where are you guys? Here and here. Thank you. Thank you for making us people we are today. Thanks for the love and guidance throughout our lives, and for the support to make today happen. It really means a lot. Thanks. I know if my mum was here today that she would adore Tom, and she would be happy that we've just got married.
And now I'm going to hand over to the father of the bride.
I want to show you how you have to teach by example. You want it to be very relaxed from now on, so excuse me a second. Mae'n bleser mwyaf gennyf fod yma heddiw eich croesawu I ddathliad priodas fe merch Anvil Clare a Tom Collister. Riff wedi edmygu I pobl dwyieithog erioed. Felly, dyma fy nhanig I fod yn aelwyd anrydeddus. Pan oeddem yn 10 mlwydd oed, symudodd fy'n heilw I Loegr I Ogledd Cymru. A dyna pryd gychwynodd taid Clare I weithio ym Mangor. Buom ono am 5 mlynedd. Oeddem yn byw yn nwy gyfolchi ger Penmaen Mawr. Cyd ddigwyddiad llwyr I fod Tom a Deilw yn byw. Dim ond thir miltir I ffwrdd o fan honno y mwlch Saesnant. Yn ystod yr cyfnodau y Stirlon, ethner thrwng Tom a Clare. Tybed pa iaith mae Tom yn defnyddio? Tybio ni, a chithau debyg, mae iaith cariad fydd hon, iaith na fydd angen, fydd mwy chwfieithw. Gwelaf brethder a wynebau fy ffrindi Saesneg. Brethder fy modi am barhau ar eithio Hymraeg. Gwelef fod yn brethder yn poeni fy ffrindiau Cymraeg hefyd. Ac ar hynny, efallai gychwynnau eto. So you'll see that I did have a renter crowd just in case you didn't understand. So just in case you didn't understand, this is what I said. I'm delighted to be here to welcome you to the celebration of the marriage of my daughter Claire to Tom Collister. I have always envied those who are bilingual, and this is my first attempt to gain honorary membership of the club. When I was 10 years old, we moved from England to North Wales, where Claire's granddad started work in Bangor. We stayed 5 years. And we lived in Dwygyfylchi near Penmaen Mawr, and it's a real coincidence that Tom and his family lived just over a mile from there, on the other side of the Sychnant Pass. What language does Tom use in those meaningful moments with Claire?
Grunts and clicks.
I hope Tom's understood what I've said already. I think we all know it's the language of love, for which no translation is required. I see on the faces of English friends that there's concern that I might deliver the whole speech in Welsh. I also see on the faces of Welsh friends that there's the same concern. So maybe I'd better start again. So it's Groundhog Day. So, mae'n bleser mwyaf. So, many thanks to Leigh. Where are you, Leigh? Leigh helped me, and she gave me my first Welsh lesson for almost 50 years. I've primed some of the audience just in case I was getting stuck. You know what the sign is? Just in case. Claire, you look beautiful. And you always have been. And I'm so proud of you. And we know that your mum would have been so as well. Superb place, superb organisation, superb venue. Who wants to go to the south of France for a holiday when you can come to North Wales for the sun? Superb support for Claire from her bridesmaids and their 50s style gear, and I'm sure they're going to show us their 50s styles movements on the dance floor. And the food and the music and all of it is superb. Claire, when you were born, we were expecting a boy. Not because the scan mistook the umbilical cord for something else, but because in the family, as you appreciate, Claire's got 16, 17 cousins. Nikki was the first, she's the senior.
Yeah, senior! Nikki's in charge.
And then, after Nikki within the family, their cousins and sibs, there were 8 males, and many of them are here. So put your hand up if you're one of the male boys in the family. Hey, look at them all. Everybody, hey, I didn't know I got so many children. Oh my gosh, the truth is out. Oh no, you said you wouldn't tell. I can't afford it. And after you, there were another 5 males, so you can see that you were a wonderful surprise. It was a fantastic surprise. You were born in Harrow, which explains why you are a little bit posh on occasions. And as you are number 4 in the family, your mum and I had got plenty of parenting skills by the time you had arrived. So, in fact, you and Andy, wherever Andy is here, younger babe, they were so easy to bring up and look after. Maybe it's a bit more of a struggle now, but all those years ago. So, when you were young, there were 7 of us, and we were living in a small 3-bedroomed, semi-detached house. So you can imagine, Andy, the rooms were a bit difficult, so Andy slept in a pram in the hall when he was a baby. And he still does sleep in the hall sometimes when he comes home late. Because he struggles to get up the stairs, I think. And Claire, you slept in a travel cot in the dining room. So some of you may know Nicola, Mark, John and Andy. And therefore, you might understand that if anybody like Claire can cope with these Palmers at any one time, then you must be pretty resilient. So Claire, you can see that you could not have had a better start in life. Your school report written by Mrs. Waldridge when you were just 8 says that Claire is a conscientious worker, a very pleasant and helpful girl with a cheerful, outgoing personality. Isn't that so true? Yeah. To this we can now add determined, shows initiative, has inner strength, and all of the other things that they've spotted in each other, Tom and Claire. You're so good at being friendly that it's so easy for you to have your group of friends. What a number of amazing friends you've got, and they're good to yourselves, to each other, and in particular to me and Marguerite. We've always appreciated your friends. and they've always been treated here so generously. But I do apologise if I muddle your names now and again. It was Granny who said to you, this is Granny who's smiling at us.
Yay, Granny!
Yeah. She's smiling at us now. She said to you, when are you going to marry Tom? This was several years ago. So she knew that it was something special at that time. So she is smiling at us now. You know that. So you once asked me, Claire, how much will the wedding cost us? And I said, although I had been married for some time, I didn't know because I was still paying for mine. Let's blown that one. So Tom, Grandad, who actually sends his best wishes, and I guess he was the initiator of all of the Greater Palmer clan, he said not long ago, I like Tom, despite his beard. Tom, you're a pogonophile. That's not Welsh for something dodgy. It's someone who likes beards, a pogonophile. But my problem, the trouble with people who have beards, and I'm sure you appreciate this, is that once they've shaven them off, every time you see them, you think they look different, and you're not sure why. So even Tom, if you have a haircut, I think, gosh, Tom looks different. Have you shaved off your beard? And even Tom, probably when you have a shower or wear a new shirt, people think the same. So, Tom, indeed, I'm confused. Have you just shaved off your beard? He's had a wash. Yes. Tom, it was, no, serious point, it was very good of you to phone me from South America and Mexico when to ask for, prove my approval, to ask for Claire's hand in marriage. And that's very true, and it was very romantic of you, that even you had, and it's very good of you to ask me. I was very impressed. And I said to you, yes, Tom, of course, I'd be delighted for you to do that. But I said, also I had a rider to it. I said, but beware, she might say no. Because occasionally she can be a bit feisty. But not very often, because all of the other things you've said about you, Claire, are so true. How nice you are. Clearly, you said yes, and hence the wonderful events today. Tom, since then, you've phoned me on many occasions so that I could educate you about family life. And the only book that I had at hand for you to borrow, and you did so on several occasions, for you to read, and as you're a teacher, it was for me to test you, and it was entitled The Family Life of the Tortoise. But I thought it was very useful for you. So, when I assessed you, I was very pleased that you'd come out of your shell. You were a bit slow, but you got there in the end. So, there's an echo around the mountains. Tom and Claire, we've had the pleasure of getting to know you and Tom's family, and especially Rob and Nettie, Dan and Sally, wherever you are here. And so thank you very much. I'm not losing a daughter. We're not losing a daughter. We're gaining a son. You got the seal of approval on that Christmas. We got everybody together down there, and we said, okay, just a secret. You know how you blackball, and just tell me quietly. Give me the tug, and we'll let you know. So, on behalf of the larger family here today, we say how great it is to have another edition. And we welcome you, Tom. Beard or no beard, Grandad is delighted. So, can I please ask you to raise a toast to Claire and Tom? Claire and Tom. Thank you.
I've got heels on today. Thanks, guys. Hi. I'm Miranda and I'm Claire's best friend. Actually, I'm lying. I should say one of her best friends, because there are a lot of other big contenders here today. But the really special thing about me is I'm the unlucky one who's had to stay sober enough to give this speech. The others are all pissheads. I first met Claire 13 years ago via her wonderful sister Nikki P. I was expecting a shy, maybe slightly awkward, definitely dweeby 16-year-old. But instead I met this wise, emotionally mature, fun-loving friend with an amazing sense of humour, but who's also warm beyond belief, and we just completely hit it off. This was even more unbelievable considering what Claire and her family had just been through, losing their gorgeous mum so young. From everything I've heard about Gail, then she was utterly incredible, and I know she would have been extremely proud of you and would have loved seeing how happy you are with Tom. So Claire and I first really properly bonded at a free party where Claire decided that we needed to spice things up a bit by pinning down as many people as we could and giving them love bites. Even if they were asleep. Especially. Our chief victim had to teach on the following Monday in 25-degree heat wearing a polar neck jumper. Sorry, Leon. This was just a taste of what was to come. We all soon quickly discovered that Claire has an extremely dark sense of humour, and she was soon dubbed Princess of Darkness. To say I had found a kindred spirit is a massive understatement. From there, our friendship grew and grew, and soon both Palmer girls adopted me as their honorary sister. And knowing how important their family is to them, this was a huge compliment. When Claire went off travelling to India and then Australia, I just had to go and find her. Now, there's nearly an exact 10-year age gap between me and Claire. And whilst travelling, I got fed up of everyone thinking I was Claire's sugar mummy. And Claire got fed up of everyone patronising her because she was 18 at the time. So we decided to average our ages, say we were both 23, and then from then on, no one batted an eyelid. We spent an entire month being totally inseparable, and Tom, I have to say I envy you, as waking up to Claire's smile, energy and positivity every day is the most incredible feeling in the world.
Oh, morning, Claire!
Morning, Puppet! He's too excitable. Every day was an amazing adventure. Now Claire loves adventure. This is clearly apparent from her antics such as bridge jumping, wild swimming, whale shark searching, various cycling adventures, and living in both Barcelona and Copenhagen. But Claire also manages to turn even mundane tasks into an adventure too. From just putting on her waterproofs and going cycling in the rain and loving it. Often all Claire needs is a good drum and bass tune, and even doing the washing up with her is the best fun ever. One of my favourite things about Claire is how passionate she is about things. From her love of her cat Oscar, or Little Shit as we call him, her love of Marmite, eggs, broccoli, music, friendships, eggs, her family, cycling, running and more eggs. Claire is so passionate, it's infectious. But this also means that Claire is a bit of a sucker for fads. She throws herself wholeheartedly into new things and excels at them until something new pops into her head. So a few examples of these: roller skating, capoeira, devil sticks, fringes, cushion making, flute playing. I could go on. Claire is extremely sociable and outgoing. She makes friends like Tom has hot dinners. She puts so much time and effort into her friends and family. Whilst in Australia, you were there too. Whilst in Australia, after a massive mess up with her flight booking, Claire and I had to travel from Sydney to halfway up the east coast. No problem separately, because we'd messed our flights up. This would be no problem normally, except that because of Claire's amazing ability to lose things, her wallet was in my pocket for safekeeping. Oops. But in true Claire Palmer style, not only did she get on an entirely new flight, a bus, with no money, food or water, but she managed to make friends with everyone on the way, got all her meals and drinks paid for. They even let her use their phones to ring me to keep me updated, and by the time we were reunited, no one would accept any money from me, and instead I just had to wait at the sidelines while Claire got goodbye hugs from the entire bus instead. But although I like to tease Claire about her MBFs, new best friends, she's also one of the most loyal people you will ever meet. She's been there, my rock, through some really tough times. She's no fair weather friend. And whenever you're having a bit of a hard time, Claire always managed to make everything feel a little bit brighter. Or in Claire's words, give you a little boost when you're feeling a bit stupid. Although 10 years younger, I always ask Claire for advice because she's so wise and she always gives such a fair, considered and thoughtful view. But although incredibly wise, Claire can also be really ditzy. So her examples of this are her aforementioned ability to lose things or leave things behind whilst travelling. She once made a cake with 21/2 teaspoons of baking powder rather than 2.5.
Make your mind up, Nigella.
And she has a huge repertoire of hilarious one-liners, including do snakes have legs? When's the monsoon season? We were in the desert in Egypt at the time. Or my personal favourite, when asked by a customs officer, do you have any propane? Claire replied, no, but I've got some paracetamol. Have you got a headache? One of the things that strike you most about Claire is that balanced with her warmth and endless love, she's also strong, determined and self-confident. She has an amazing gift of managing to flip challenges into something positive, and this was witnessed recently when she managed to, when she experienced bullying and some poor management at work, and managed to enable the entire workplace to become more fair. Another example is in her militant exercise regime. As Luke and I soon discovered when we went to go and visit Claire and Tom in Belize last year. On day one, Claire roped us into doing team regime. On the pier in front of our guest house every evening, often in front of lots of bemused tourists and locals, while we were doing sit-ups and push-ups and generally making ourselves look very silly. Only Claire Palmer could manage this. Okay, to sum up Claire in such a short amount of time is really tricky for someone so multidimensional. And being a bit of a perfectionist, I was a little bit worried that I might have missed something. So I asked some of your closest friends to give me 5 adjectives to describe you. I was initially hoping to present it as a Venn diagram. But the results were hilarious, with a total of 71 different words used, ranging from pervy and dweeby to effervescent. However, the top 2 were loving and funny. So, yeah, I've done, it's not quite a Venn diagram, it wouldn't work, but Claire, this is for you, to say thank you for being you, and for whenever you're feeling a little bit stoop, this will give you a, please look at this for a big boost. Say a few words about the wonderful, amazing Tom, Lord of the Dance, the Flying Spider. I have rarely met anyone with such a passion and enthusiasm for fun, adventure, and pasta. He is so incredibly loving and warm, and I'm very, very privileged that he is now one of my best friends too. I was lucky enough to witness the start of this magical relationship whilst on holiday in Spain during Rocket Festival and afterwards. As we've already heard, their courtship began with being completely buried in the sand with only a snorkel to breathe through, progressed to Claire asking if she could brush Tom's teeth for him. Their first kiss only happened because Claire put Tom in a headlock. And the deal was sealed, bridge jumping in Wales and black pudding throwing in Lancashire. What a marriage made in heaven. I know from experience of being fortunate enough to spend lots of time in their company that being with them is utterly inspiring, grounding and life-enhancing all at the same time. They're so truly perfect for each other, complement each other, make a brilliant team clom. And I know that they will continue to make each other and those around them very happy for many years to come. I'm also looking forward to lots more shared adventures together. Okay, I'm just about finished now. So finally, I didn't think my role as a best woman would be complete without saying how beautiful the best men look. Luke told me I had to say that. No, Claire, seriously, you are stunningly beautiful, not just today, but beautiful inside and out. What are we going to do? You are my best friend, my soulmate, partner in mischief, adopted sister, wise, warm and wonderful. You are my family. You're my long-standing holiday buddy, but even though we don't get to go on holiday as much as we used to, you still are and always will be my sunshine. And I want to end just singing, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when the skies are grey. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
Coming and make it rain. Won't make it rain. That work?
The mic!
Okay.
Speak loud!
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Tom. He's my brother, so I've known him a long time. And we grew up at the end of a midge-infested valley near Pymachno called Glascombe. And there wasn't many other people who lived at Glascombe, so we kind of made our own fun at there and roamed free and built dens and rode our bikes and did various other things. And Tom was quite a cool kid. He was, at one point, he had a Mohican and luminous boxer shorts and a snake around his neck, and he'd be rocking out in the kitchen to Whoa Black Betty or a bit of Michael Jackson. So we did all these innocent things, and then we started progressing to more exciting things like lighting things and exploding things and smoking things. And there was the bridge jumping gang, which maybe was the inspiration for the Beaver Bridge jump. We used to ride around our bikes finding high bridges to jump off all over North Wales. And where are we going? And then there was a story that always gets told about our family about when we crashed the Fiat Panda in the woods. And the story that normally gets told is the end of the story, really, where I was driving and the car crashed and we all landed upside down and the music was still going. We were all in our seatbelts, hanging upside down, going, oh dear, what are we going to do now? And then we turned the car back over and drove it really fast home because it was wrecked anyway. So. And then we crashed into the ditch when the bonnet flew up. But we finally got it home and then we had to wait all day. Me and Tom, the other three boys went home and it was just me and Tom left to face the music. About 10 hours waiting in the kitchen wondering what to do. But that was the end of the story anyway. But the beginning of the story was about maybe a year beforehand, our friend Martin Holloway decided it would be a good idea to take our mum and dad's car out, and he knew how to drive, so he showed us how to drive. And the maiden voyage was Tom and Martin headed off down into the forest, and Martin was driving quite confidently, changing gear, going quite fast, and then we saw them disappear, and they disappeared for about half an hour. And then suddenly we heard this screaming of an engine, and Tom was coming back up the road, and he didn't know how to change gear, so he was still in first gear, doing about 30 miles an hour, and he came sliding around the corner up the drive to the house, and went straight over the fence and flattened the fence, and then somehow managed to get back into the yard. And then, so that was the beginning of the story, that we spent a couple of hours kind of straightening the fence and topping up the fuel tank with the petrol from the mower. And then every couple of weeks, whenever the coast was clear, we'd take the car out and have a little rag around. And once, twice bits dropped off we had to go back and look for, and found bits of exhaust pipe in the middle of the road. So there wasn't much for teenagers to do in Glasgow around Penmafno, so we had to make our own fun. And from quite an early age, Tom was into music and loud music, and he bought a PA system when he was about 15. It was really loud, so we could pound out the music in his bedroom, which was a den of iniquity for the local youth, who all used to gather, and smoke would billow out the window. And occasionally Nettie would pop her head through the trapdoor in the floor and check we were all still alive, and then go away again. But to be fair, she was very relaxed, a very relaxed parents, and we must thank them for that, because we did have a good time. So from the PA system, we did a few little parties for friends, and they sort of progressed into bigger parties further afield. And one party that I remember was going in a van called Derek down to Barcelona. We drove all the way down with Shiv and Scragger and Poppy and me and Tom. Was there anyone else? Yeah. And when we got there, we met Claire. That was the first time I met Claire and a few other people. And we did a party in a place called the Sonar Festival, which was in Barcelona. And it was a big dusty parking lot with lots of sound systems playing techno and gabba and twisted music that all had lots of men in black hoodies stomping around in the dust. And then there was one little sound system in the middle next to Derek, and that was where all the girls were, all the colourful people, and all the children and animals, and everybody nice in the whole place was all gathered around that sound system. And there was nice music playing for the whole festival, and there are pictures taken from above, and it was amazing how colourful our spot was, wasn't it? So we were there for about 3 or 4 days in the dust, and then we finally got out and we stayed in somebody's house or in a flat for the night and got freshened up a bit. And then we went out and we were going to take Derek down the coast for a bit of camping, and we got to where Derek was parked and he wasn't there anymore. I saw Tom's face drop, all his records, his big sound system, really nice, crisp sound system, sounded so lovely, it all disappeared, and Derek. And luckily Shiv had lived in Barcelona, so he had a little idea that it might have gone somewhere, it might have been impounded, and he managed to get it back for us. So thanks, Shiv.
Nobody impounds Derek.
So we got Derek back, and that there was another story from another festival, in the Boom Festival in, where was it, Portugal, and I remember it was again, our sound system was sort of stuck out for being a bit more fluffy and friendly, and Tom was playing Billie Jean by Michael Jackson, and a hardened trance head came over and hissed at him, "This is not a pop festival, this is a trance festival." But that didn't tell him, he carried on, we played all weekend. So I think Tom's enthusiasm for music and rabble-rousing is legendary, and the Vibrations night in Bangor and around Leeds and Sheffield and further afield, it's become a legendary night that lots of people talk about. People who've never been before for the first time, and they're always amazed by it and warmed by the quality of the people that are there. Good time had by all. Yeah. Oh, I've asked a few people like Miranda things about Tom, and most of them mention the power puke, which is something that Tom. It's a bit like the Romans used to do in a feast, and they'd go and puke to get ready for the next feast. But Tom's one's usually just a little bit when he's feeling slightly queasy. He goes before he needs to, and enjoys it, and then he's back on fine form. And there's been moments like when he's been mixing records on the decks, and he just turns around and quick one over his shoulder and back to the mix. Straight in someone else's bag of records. But on the stag do, there was Tom was very enthusiastic about fishing the last few years. He got really into fishing. Tom's a very enthusiastic man. That's one of his strong points, his enthusiasm for all kinds of things. Yeah, he's really into fishing now, and so he managed to persuade somebody to go out in the boat with him. No one else much felt like it, I don't think, but there was Tom out in the boat, and he had a power puke over the side of the boat, and he didn't catch any fish. But he had a very nice time.
Powerful time.
Yeah, most of the other things we mentioned, he's a very good chef, makes nice food, makes lots of bread. All kinds of nice things. Yeah, made a lasagna last night, that was really cool. And I think he'll make a very fine husband. He's got all these good qualities.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And I was gonna put into the story earlier on where there was a bit about meeting Claire in Barcelona, about how I thought she was a lovely girl, and I was very pleased when I heard a few months later that they were an item, or a few years later, whenever it was, but it seemed like there was lots of friendship and laughter and fun, and that, I'm sure that will continue. And so I just want to say there's one more little story. It's a more recent thing. Well, maybe a long time ago when we were kids, and we used to be known as the cauliflowers in school. And it was just a nickname because it sounded a bit like Collister. But recently, Tom, in his work placement in the assembly, and the headmaster called him Mr. Broccoli. So I think I'd like everyone to raise a glass to Mr. and Mrs. Broccoli. And let the party begin.